And bang, we are on the air. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christopher Lowry, and I've got Steve Rodemeyer here with me. This is the Thanksgiving week edition of the Brushfire Mind, and here we go. So today, we only had one real big breaking piece of news today, and haven't gotten a lot of details on it. There was in Colorado Springs, was it?
Yeah.
There was an armed gunman, active shooter situation at a Planned Parenthood facility in Colorado Springs. I don't know what to say about this one just yet. It is going to be huge news all next week because the left is just going to jump up and down with this thing. Hey, look, we've got more non-Muslims killing people. And that's going to be their takeaway from it. Honestly, I don't know what else to even go into on that one. So,
yeah, other than according to the AP's updating, 11 people in hospitals. I don't think they've got detailed casualty counts. Hopefully, it's not as bad as that sounds. And he's been arrested, but I still don't see a released name as of yet. But the immediate threat's gone. So.
Okay, well, that's our show. Have a good night.
Yes. There is no news happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is that's the part they'll tell you about. The other part they're not talking about at present is the whole UN summit in Paris and the solidarity in the face of terrorism, which is maybe a noble claim. But the other side of it is what we're being signed up for again in emissions controls, green objectives and things like that. What's going to be binding versus non-binding, and what Congress will fund and what the president will veto.
Yeah, and we don't have any information on that yet. So
of course we don't, because then we'd be talking about it.
Yep.
What a bad thing.
Watch them try to stick that fucking NATO gun ban back in there on the side.
I can tell them where they can stick NATO, quite honestly.
Yeah, no shit. Fucking tracers every third round. Fuck you.
Well, if you know how to aim, you don't need as many tracers. Maybe.
Know how to aim, you don't need any tracers.
Well, yeah, you'd think. They sure do look pretty from an AC-130.
They sure do look pretty when they're flagging your position, too.
Yeah, point taken. Which isn't so bad if you're the one in the AC-130.
Yeah.
Yeah, little different when you're on the ground.
I tell you what, something kind of cool to see, though, is if you ever get a chance to take a 50 caliber machine gun out in the desert.
Please?
And just shoot it out. Just shoot a couple thousand rounds through it at nothing in particular, just to get used to playing with the thing. You know, get some privates trained up. You get the NATO run belts where they've got the tracer every third or fourth round. It's supposed to be every third round, but
I thought it was worded small arms 5 and heavy machine guns.
You may be right.
I think. I don't know. It's been a long time since I knew all that.
But anyway, you break that son of a bitch open and watch the tracers ricochet and go off in various directions. That's a little scary. Every now and then one comes back at you like, that's a 50 caliber bullet heading this way.
Thankfully, though, on its way back, it's usually much slower than it was on the way out.
Yeah, but when you see one coming back at you, it does make you wonder how many of them that aren't shiny and easy to spot
are doing the same thing.
Because, I mean, you're just standing on top of the truck or standing in the desert next to the truck while this private's squeezing them butterflies and going to town. He's like, oh, there's a 50 round. Well,
I'm going to get a little lower behind the truck.
Sometimes it bees that way.
Yes, sometimes it do be.
But
no, it's going to be interesting on the outside of that, because we hear a lot and talk somewhat about this whole international community kind of thing. And as we were talking before the show, worrying too much about other people and abandoning or ignoring or making seem second rate your own countrymen seems like a very, very bad way to lead.
Well, there's that. And let's just take a moment to look at the situation with the welfare state. Basically, the world over, you have third world, then you have welfare states, and then you have the idea of America, which is a welfare state now, but the idea of America is not.
Right.
But it has become the case that America is the payor for the individual sovereign welfare recipients around the world. We're paying out more foreign aid. We pay out more in foreign aid than most other countries have as a national GDP.
Yeah, and admittedly, if you look at the math on what we do give away in foreign aid, it's not as much as a lot of pundits would have you believe. As a percentage of what we have, we don't really give a lot away. So, I mean, it's a lot of money to you and I. But even if you're talking $800 billion, and it's not that high, not effectively in goods. I mean, what we do in trade agreements and things like that's a whole nother story. But there was a number floating around when this was a big argument before, and it's not nearly as high as everyone thinks it is. And just as for instance, a one-time kind of donation thing I read about today, Canada is planning is it a $70 million donation, so to speak, toward the transit and care of the refugees through whatever program this is they're bringing all the Syrians through. Not just our 10,000 quota or whatever it is, but the general fund for them. But so, 70 million, I don't think goes a long way toward what they're going to do with that for them, but it sure would go a long way if you're taking care of 10,000 homeless.
Well, we're dumping out in private assistance, in total U.S. private assistance, $71.2 billion.
Yeah, which isn't really that much when you think about it. Think about our overall budget. That's a chunk of change, but it really means nothing in the grand scheme. That's not even a month's worth of spending.
But that's one way to look at it. But at the same time, total U.S. GDP. Okay, 16.7 trillion in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. So 1% of our budget is going to charity. You think about a household budget.
Yeah.
If you're putting out 10% in tithes, that's basically what foreign aid is. That's our charity. That's our charitable contributions. Except our charitable contributions are not just foreign aid.
Right.
That's separate from our welfare contributions at home,
yeah.
which are also substantial.
More substantial than that. Yeah.
Significantly. But I mean, are we at the point now that half the money that goes out of my tax dollars, that 50 cents on my tax dollar, is being given to somebody who didn't earn their living?
Oh, I don't think that has any realm in anything sensical. I don't know. I do believe the government's got to be there for some things, but I don't think a total anarchy will work, especially not with a population this big.
I agree.
But the cradle to grave objectives that the left seems to love so much, it's already been proven. It doesn't matter how much money. Well, this is another hydra of an argument. Even if you look at things like the pie having infinite slices like we do, versus a pie being a fixed number of slices, like say Sanders does. Even with an infinite size of pie, you still have to make the money before you can take it and spend it on something. And you still have to take it from whoever made it, because government doesn't make money. And that's what nobody sees. You have to take money from people that are producing and give it to people who aren't. Whether they can't or whether they won't, they aren't. And if we can limit that to the people who truly cannot, or can but very minimally, because of disabilities and things like that, that's one thing. But to give it to people who can provide any kind of service, even if it's cleaning offices in the government buildings, it's some sort of service they're providing for the money, and we don't hold anyone to that. There is no value in what we're giving away.
I'm not sure if I know how to save words without forming an argument. I don't have an argument.
Do I need to piss you off first?
I mean, I think everything you've just said was correct and sensible.
In the interest of saving the dead air, I think you do have a point there. The fact that we're spending, call it 30% of what we make just in the federal level taxes, and then 50% of what we're paying in there is just simply given away to either people on welfare rolls of some sort or to the administrators of said rolls, which is where a lot of it does go, is simply paying salaries for people to be denied things that might truly need it. The fact that it has to go wash through all that and the money is not being used to the greatest effect it possibly can, if we have to be giving it up, should be bothersome to everybody who is paying into the system.
Yeah.
Might be worth looking up at another point, figures like that. What we take in and we say is for education, say. And then you look up at the number of administrative levels before you get to the schools where the money goes, just in the people who oversee what's supposed to be happening.
Right.
I think you could look at, say you're paying in, $200 billion to pay for schools. Your schools nationwide are getting 30 billion of it. The rest is in payroll and various and sundry, more so than it's in actual educational programs or paraphernalia.
Right. Stay on that for a minute.
As much as I can, because I think it would still be, it would be handy to have those numbers in the welfare systems too, but I don't know that you could nail that down in any kind of a rapid form. That's going to take a little more research. This is where I am envious of people, some of the bigger talk shows and things like that, because they actually have staff that have time to do this. It's a little daunting.
That's something that we'll get there. We'll get there.
We're taking volunteers if anyone watching is interested.
Yeah, no doubt. We are definitely hiring unpaid interns.
Yeah, careful with that.
Yeah, totally hiring unpaid interns always. And I'll be happy to generate nice sticky letters of recommendation with all kinds of letters on them.
Yes, and web traffic and links and whatnot. Because we're not paid for this right now, but we try to help each other out. So we believe in fraternity that way. Dare I say it, a large information collective.
Ooh, that sounds kind of sexy.
Because information flows quite easily and isn't taxed much.
All right. To adjust that a little bit. I had a different camera on here a minute ago.
I'm going to say you're rivaling Michael Bay with that lens flare thing.
So lens flare still real bad? God.
Just that one big dot right in the middle of your drawing. You know, the important part.
Yeah. Can you see it?
A little bit. A little bit. That's a little bit better. That's one persistent light bulb.
I'm not there. No, nothing.
I think that's enough to get the point across.
Is it?
I think so. I think so.
Oh, that's it. Ah! Get back up there, you son of a bitch.
We need one of those technical difficulties. Please stand by freeze shots.
Yeah. Okay, shut up a minute so I can see the monitor. There we go. That's fine. That's bright spots all over the place. No, what I need is a non-reflective whiteboard and a better camera because that's just
Out of focus.
Okay. I'll have to try that shit some other time then.
Yeah, right on.
Got to be a better way to handle that.
Yeah, I think you've got it though. A matte marker board, if you can get such a thing where it doesn't have, because it's got to be a little bit slick where it doesn't hold on to the marker. And a little bit better lighting, some diffusers and stuff, you'd be all right. Or get into this century and do it digitally.
Yeah. Do.
Cute. It's a pencil with a mustache.
Okay, that's it's not working like I expected it to.
How do you get this thing to center on my feed instead of on my... So move your head around. All right, so I wouldn't say it's infallible.
No, certainly not. Oh God, I'm looking at you looking at me.
Yeah, I know. Now I got to figure out how to get back out of here. Give me a second.
That's some creepy ass shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it fixed?
No.
How about now?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to turn that shit off.
Yeah, that didn't work out so good. Oh, wow. Neat.
Not sure what happened there.
It's broken.
Still happening.
Now I'm looking at me.
Okay, it's over now.
There we go. And you're still too small. Ah, there we go. Now you're back to full screen. This whole show should have been one big technical difficulties. Please stand by a static screen.
Yeah, I feel bad about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
guys,
part of the growing pains.
not one of our better nights tonight.
No, it isn't. We normally have more people kind of bouncing topics around.
Yeah. So
your comment earlier about you think Hollande backed off of his pressure on ISIS a little too soon?
Yes. As soon as the event occurred, he closed all the borders. He said nobody gets in. Just
Right.
shut it down. And I think that was absolutely the right answer. I think the immediacy was good. I think that was correct.
Mm-hmm.
But by the following day, he was letting in another 30,000 immigrants. I'm sorry, refugees.
Refugees.
He was letting in another 30,000 refugees the next day. And I think that's a very, very dangerous game to play. Their expectation, the expectation that all of the refugees can be trusted, man, we just don't need people.
It's something that doesn't sit well with me either, but it's since come out that the one guy they were interrogating in France in connection with all that was not one of the refugee numbers. He was actually under a faked Syrian passport. He wasn't even Syrian, and he was no refugee. That somebody has tracked here. Now, mind you, that was one of what, a dozen people.
Right.
So I can't speak to it, but the one that they thought would have shown that way didn't. And people backtracking here for the stuff that's happened, and even when it came down to the Tsarnaevs, they were not technically refugees. They were here when their father was given a refugee status, but it didn't apply to them. They were technically immigrants. So I think still technically you can say that refugees in and of themselves have not done any of the crap that's been going on so far that we can prove. I don't like the idea of 30,000 non-vetted, zero income new residents. That's a hell of a load on somebody whose economy is already fairly precarious, as most of them tend to be in Europe these days. Thank you, Greece.
Yeah.
Here, the 10,000 doesn't seem to be as big of an impact, but on the other hand, it kind of depends on where you locate them, I think. And I think it could be worse. I think our problem with people crossing the southern border and things is much more critical than what it would be taking in the refugees at this point, until something else proves out. But so far, statistically, I don't think it's as bad as it seems like it should be.
See, there's a few problems with the refugee question that it just blows my mind. The things that people don't talk about. Okay, so, for one, let's take a moment. You got the Tsarnaevs, you got the Chattanooga Navy recruiting post. No, it was a Marine recruiting post. Yeah, Marine recruiting post shooter. You got Fort Hood shooter. A couple of other incidents where it was a Muslim or Muslims conducting a terrorist maneuver on American soil, and we hear people jumping up and down. Well, this one was an immigrant, and this one was an immigrant. Well, no, that one wasn't an immigrant or a refugee, and that one was a refugee. Irrelevant, because in those cases, you're talking about one or two people at a time, and whether or not those individuals came here as refugees is as related to this situation with the Syrian crisis as Timothy McVeigh is to Christian terrorism.
Maybe so.
The two have nothing to do with one another. They're completely irrelevant to one another. Now, the problem with the refugees is it's not just the idea that they could be that ISIS could be sneaking in young military-aged men ready to conduct operations. You have to remember, the refugees are disenfranchised people.
Right.
These people are unhappy. I don't blame them. I get it.
Yeah.
But they're already unhappy. They are already in the emotional state where they're most easily radicalized. Now, one of the arguments for allowing the refugees is the process takes 18 to 24 months. And so it doesn't seem like this. I keep hearing this from the left, this argument from the left. It just seems like if the terrorists wanted to get somebody across the border, there are faster ways to do it. That's wrong-headed. What you need to be remembering is these people are already in a very fragile emotional state. They're already the disenfranchised people who are Muslim. So they already subscribe to that religion, which includes the passages of violence and the dogma of violence. They are the easiest people in the world to radicalize. So it's not a question of whether or not a terrorist, somebody who's already an active ISIS agent, decides to use the refugee movement to get here.
Right.
You've got somebody who's been going through the process for 18 to 24 months. They're 12 to 14 months into the process. That's an amazingly effective target to radicalize and create more terrorists who are already being brought in. Plus, those people, even if there was an adequate vetting system, those people would easily pass it because they were because they would have been entering the refugee process before becoming radicalized and planning to get involved. That's where my biggest concern is. I mean, we could bring them all over here without a single one of them being radicalized, and they would still represent a new, large, concentrated community of people who were in an easily radicalization position. They're in that emotional state, they're in that economic position, and they already have the background of ideology and dogma to be radicalized.
That's true. That's worth a ponder.
So yeah, one of the most important questions I think is whether or not these people represent a new target-rich environment to create new terrorists from once they're here and easily radicalized. The question of whether or not we've got terrorists coming in with them, that's just a given.
Maybe so. That is one way to think about it. That's one thing nobody is talking about. Like you said, it's scary, the things that don't get brought up.
Well, that's why we do what we do. People aren't having the conversations that need to be had.
No, that's true. I don't know. There are so many things now that we have gone so far, and I can't even say that fast. But you look over the main 30 years of my cognitive section of lifespan, when I realized there was a point to all the news shows that everybody watched around me. This has been, well, if you want to call them progressives, this has been a progression all my life to get to this point where it's so bad about all you can do is flail and flounder because nobody's in any position of power that isn't beholden to somebody who's got a different plan. You look at some of the people, even the outsiders, as they like to call them, that have gotten even state level and federal level government positions, that all of a sudden nothing is what it seems. And they'll come out and tell you that, yeah, they can't do anything because of the quagmire that is the process. And those kind of things have ensured through our lifespans up till this point that nothing could change except everything being toward the easy side, not the hard decision side. Nobody wants to make the hard decisions, especially not people who make a career out of politics. They want the easy calls. They want the stuff that is easy to get them reelected, not something they have to explain away in all the roundtable discussions back home. So because of all the passing the buck and everything else, we're left with this now. And because of the state of the education system, we're dealing with a couple of generations of people who have no idea how to deal with it, no drive to deal with it, and no idea why they should deal with it. It doesn't affect their daily lives, so they think.
That's a good point. And you know, I used to believe that my vote didn't count because of the Electoral College, and there is some wisdom in that argument.
Sort of, yeah, sort of.
Some, but the argument is fallacious. There is some concern there, and of course, the 16th or 17th Amendment. 19th. I'll have to look it up, but it was that we elected. I'm sorry, that the states appointed the House or the Senate.
The states appointed the Senate. The representatives were voted for by the people.
Right. So, but that's no longer the case. We vote for
a while, yeah.
Right. We vote for the House and for the Senate directly. And that's been one of the worst travesties in America.
Agreed, because there's no balance there. All you're doing is essentially making representatives out of your senators.
Right. So it means that the state doesn't have a voice.
Right. And I think if you're going to stair step it and you're going to make a balance of power that way, I think it should still be important for the state to still have a say in it, because the state's in touch with a lot of what their mobile citizenry wants. The thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Electoral College in that sense is that is the way that you keep everything fair, to where the three big states don't completely run the government because the little states don't have enough voice in government.
Right. But I think it was the 19th Amendment, but no, that's suffrage. Anyway, taking the appointment of the senators away from the states, that was effectively the death of state sovereignty. That was the beginning of the end for the 10th Amendment. They
attempted it. They attempted it. The main thing now is the government's gotten so big and their programs so far reaching, without state support, they're effectively nullified anyhow. And I like that.
Your statement is correct in theory. Mm-hmm. The problem is that none of the states ever do nullify.
They do. Actually, there were three major nullification cases earlier this year. One of them in Oklahoma, I think, where effectively they just basically said, no, we're not going to do that. And it's a fine. The federal government can't enforce it.
Right. And Colorado and Washington, the states that have legalized marijuana, that's effectively nullification.
Right.
And that's an interesting issue too, because there is no constitutional power for the government, for the federal government, to place a ban on a chemical like that. The prohibition is not,
welfare. That's been a bastardized line.
No, that was done under the Commerce Clause.
Yeah, that's how they got it done. The first argument was the public welfare clause. Was that, this is bad for everybody, no matter what. They shouldn't be allowed to choose to do this. Like you said, prohibition doesn't work. And after that proved out, they tried to prohibit the next thing. They couldn't go that route again. So hence interstate commerce.
Right. And yeah, prohibition, law causes crime. All law causes crime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially when you're making $40,000 a year, you're making criminals out of people who yesterday were law-abiding citizens, and they haven't changed their activities at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, the Second Amendment stays absolutely fucking sacrosanct in my house.
It's more needed now than ever. Especially when you've got courts at all levels determining the police are not there to save your life. They don't carry a gun for you. They carry it for them.
Yep.
And it's More power on them.
As high as the Supreme Court, it has been stated in no uncertain terms that an officer has no duty to protect.
That's right.
They do not even have a duty to intercede.
Yeah. They're basically there to gather facts and make reports.
They have a duty to prosecute crime after it's committed. That's all that they're required by law to do.
Right. Excuse me. But I don't know. There are a lot of scary facets to that too, and it all boils down to it's all overreaching government. The militarization thing. Even when I was a kid, the cop was the guy in town you could go up and ask for help. You could go up, say hi to him, whatever else. Now, more often than not, they're wearing bulletproof vests and thigh packs and everything else, and you can't say hi to them. They send you away. Not all the time. Don't get me wrong. I always tout my county's sheriff's department. They talked about a good savings plan being to save yourself $10,000 and not get a DUI. It's just great sense of humor from the Facebook page. But there are still a lot of good cops out there. But there are also a lot of them who are like us. The run and gun stuff has some appeal to it. Don't get me wrong. We have SWAT teams on purpose. The problem is everybody has liked it so much, and it's an impressive way to use your dollars and look good in front of cameras, that they've now militarized the entire department, not just their special weapons division. I think that's where the line's been crossed so much. How do you take that back at that point, and how do you tell them what their job is? Because you've just given them all the tools of war. Not the tools of defense, but the tools of war. They have tanks, they have grenade launchers, and only for tear gas and rubber bullets, my ass. They're capable of anything. So I don't know. It's made things scary in a lot of metro areas.
Oh yeah, you pull out an M78 MGL, and you don't have to modify that weapon to add 40 millimeter HEs to it.
That's
you
right.
Drop them explosives. As fast as you pull the trigger, get 6 of them down range, and you can burn a city down like that. I've seen me do it.
I don't know. We're tangenting again, but that's why it gets so hard to have these conversations, and why it helps when there's a few of us that kind of keep kicking the topics back into center. But there are so many facets.
We didn't start with a topic checklist tonight either.
No, we didn't. But that's one of the things is there are so many facets to so many problems, and to address them all in a way that everyone can understand just how rough these decisions are, or how much it takes how much you have to absorb to start making decisions and taking stands on where you're at in a lot of this game, is daunting. It is alienating, because your friends who don't understand it don't really want to talk about it. And then once they understand a little bit, it snowballs, and then more people do understand. And I think that's where the country should be headed.
And I look back, and I used to have friends that I didn't agree
me too.
with on everything. I used to have friends I didn't agree with on everything. You used to be more people than you are now. I remember us talking about income levels, and you holding hard on the position that people like Bill Gates and the fucking Steve Jobs, your Donald Trump.
Mostly Gates was the argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember specifically, it's at some point, haven't they made enough money? And then I started making money. And then I realized, wait a minute, the little light bulb goes off, and you all of a sudden you get it. Yeah, they put in the work. They put in the time. They did away with social lives to bust ass to the thing that made them there. Nothing wrong with that.
And that's only part of it. That's only part of it. That's the first and most vital part of it that most liberals don't understand. Most leftists don't understand. The work that goes into building a business. They don't understand that. The other thing that they lose sight of, the right likes to talk about job creators. That just barely scratches the surface of the reality. Bill Gates did not create thousands of jobs. Bill Gates created hundreds or thousands of millionaires.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That was the jump start for an entire industry. And if you follow through just all the little peripherals and ancillaries and things that go around computing, period, from the people making the parts to be able to turn out 100 million iPhones, the people who are programming the apps to play on your Android, that's all these little bits and pieces that have grown since the 70s and 80s and the dawn of personal computing. That, yeah, you're right. You cannot fathom the number of jobs directly related to the computing industry, nor the money made both as employees and as company creators for the people who are originating or anything like that. And as they grew, how many people came up underneath them?
Well, I mean, really, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. Is Wozniak's first name Steve too? Or both Steves? Yeah. Wozniak. Those guys, man, they built the world we live in.
Yeah, more or less.
Our paper mills don't work the way they did before these guys. Our cars work differently.
Yeah. And even if they're not OS based, which, Microsoft didn't invent computing, but they definitely perfected the early stages of the user interface. And things like Windows over programming in a DOS language, people don't even realize that was a thing at this point. To them, there have always been web browsers.
Yeah.
I came up in the generation, we were kind of the first generation to deal with it. Yeah, that was it. I remember my first lessons in computing were on a nice green monochrome screened Apple IIe and in BASIC. And not that I could do anything with it. That was all middle school. I mean, it was, we were learning just enough to know it existed. That we weren't doing anything with it. And then at that point, that was even well ahead. Even the mainframes we were using were more word processor than they were graphical computing at that time. And to see it go from that in my lifetime to what it has, and there's a name for that, the rate at which technology and new ideas happen, being an exponential growth. Can't remember. I know it's simple, but I can't remember the term. Being able to see a big chunk of that take place in that curve has been a wild ride. And if you don't stop and think about it, like you were saying, from the capitalist standpoint, from anything else, that's an incredible thing. That we would not have this world were it not for that tiny little idea and the balls to step out, sell everything you have to make it happen. Yeah, right.
Fucking mouse. I mean, a dude at Xerox said, "Hey, I got this idea. It's this little device. You're going to hook it up to a computer. You just point at things on the screen." And Xerox said,
"Nah.
What the fuck for?
That's nobody needs that." That's it. Just try to get anybody to copy and paste a line without one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm prone to use Control Arrow Shift that, but the hotkeys, we wouldn't have the hotkeys if we hadn't had the mouse to create the original actions.
Right. We need to have this. Well, what else can we do to, it's amazing stuff. It's as silly to me as the idea of the entire Wheaties cereal history being the guy was making oat gruel on his stovetop and he spilled some and it heated up and made a crispy flake. Dude founded a company on a spill.
Yeah.
If only I'd had the clarity to notice something like that happening around me.
I had an idea like that Wednesday night. I'm not going to talk about it here.
No, I wouldn't either. Is it time to pillage and plunder again already?
Oh, my text message.
Yep.
The wife
was if you put that little switch on the side, it shuts up.
Yeah.
Is that 6 actual?
Done. Say again?
Is that?
No, yeah, that's household 6.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's household 6. Roger that.
Oh my.
That's the petty officer.
Yes. For now.
Hopefully for about another 10 years.
No, she should be something besides a petty officer at that point, shouldn't she?
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's what I mean.
Retirement
is better when you're higher ranked than that. Oh my! I wish we had some people throwing some stuff at us, some ideas, some thoughts. Kind of really thinking some people need to throw some stuff at us. Let us field something for you. Let us chew something apart that you're chewing on. Let us shatter your illusions.
We have one viewer apparently.
Excellent. Hello.
Hey, viewer. Why don't you shoot me a text message? All I can see is that there's one viewer. I can't see who you are.
Can't see a sign in.
Oh. And they just dropped off. And they just popped back on.
Excellent. Welcome back. If you can't stay connected, we'll find a staple gun and fix you to your seat.
Hey, viewer, if you shoot me a message here, I'll invite you into the actual show and just have you chit-chat with us.
We would love to. We're floundering here. We need somebody with a coherent brain.
Okay. Alex, I'm going to send you an invite so you can just join the show.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a good thing you plan on editing these. This one's going to need it.
Are you kidding? This one might just get deleted. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, right on. At least we know we're getting more stable with the feeds and stuff. I don't know. Search that one for sound bites. We were talking about some of those. I think there were a couple of lines that came out.
Well, I'm trying to give an invite here.
Yeah, that's not the easiest thing to do. I'm wondering. Well, it's hard to do, especially with a multifaceted thing like this. But the Skype platform is not as stable as this, even if the invites and things are easier. The Ustream is great for a stream out there, but I don't know what it is for people like in a chat room like this with video going. The Ustream would be more like having us all in one studio sending that.
Gotcha.
And I think Ustream costs for your membership.
Okay, bear with me. Trying to pull you in there, buddy.
I keep forgetting we have this a group chat thing on the side too. Nothing there, but I forgot the toggle was there.
I'm not sure if this is the right out. No, that's Alexander. Alex, what's your profile picture look like, buddy?
Oh, you're trying to find him on Google Plus?
On Google Plus, yeah. What's it look like on Google Plus, buddy?
I'm going to run upstairs for a glass of water. I'll be right back.
All right, brother. Is your name Alex or Alexander on Google Plus?
No luck yet?
Problem is, it's hard to see these tiny little profile pictures. So I've got like 30 Alexander Ledfords here, and I don't know which one's which.
Tell him to send you a friend request. Or maybe I just did if he's still feeling.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find Mutt.
I'm going to try to find more topic fodder.
He dropped off. I can't tell him anything now. I'll still get him on Facebook Messenger. I can.
There you go.
Brother, we may have to just give it up for tonight.
Yeah, I'm all right with that. Just being a holiday week and all, there have been too many damn distractions. I haven't really been able to digest much of the public information. Oh, my.
So, yeah, I guess we're just going to call it a night. This has been the Brushfire Mind. Thanks for watching, Alex. And
yeah, appreciate your support, brother.
Yeah, brother. And we will see you next Friday night at 2100. That's 9 o'clock for the rest of you. Go out and set people on fire so they'll be warm forever.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, brother.